All right, here we go. It's December, which means that Christmas is right around the corner, and Santa's elves are busy at the North Pole building toys. And speaking of somebody who's looking more and more like jolly old St. Nick, it's time for our monthly visit with Fireman Kenny.
WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny's on the air, helping you to stay safe in a world where danger never takes a vacation. And thank you to all 13 of our loyal listeners who are tuning into the show. As you may have noticed, we have Nurse Ginger filling in as host for this month's episode. Ginger, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kenny, and it's great to be back. As Kenny shared, I'm Nurse Ginger. I am a trauma program manager at Froedtert, which is an adult level 1 academic center with Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin. I also serve as the treasurer for the Southeast Trauma Advisory Council. I've worked in trauma programs for more than 5 years now, and like Kenny said, I'm a friend of the show.
Yep, Ginger's not only a friend of this show, but was also a friend of Magna Media's WIBD when she spoke with Rick Jensen live about trauma-related issues. We would like to thank Ginger for guest hosting this month's episode, as well as Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin for allowing us to record at their main campus. One episode early each month is in the former WIBD format. The show would like to honor the memory of the late Rick Jensen by continuing the show in the same format as we were on the first Tuesday of the month on Magna Media's WIBD, which is now WRYU. Thank you to Magna Media for allowing Rick to host the Fireman Kenny Show on the Community Conversation segment for almost 7 years. The Fireman Kenny Show would not exist if it wasn't for Rick Jensen and Magna Media. Once the call letters and format changed in January of 2024, Rick continued to host the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts until his untimely death earlier this year. If you are in the West Bend and Cedarburg area, be sure to listen to Magna Media's WRYU, We Rock You, on 101.3 and 93.9 FM, as well as 1470 AM. If you are outside the area, you can live stream the station's website, rockwryu.com, or you can listen on Alexa by saying, Alexa, play WRYU. Also, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Fireman Kenny Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or whatever platform you're listening to the show. Be sure to follow the Fireman Kenny Show on Facebook for updates on the show as well as information on future guests. And this show is looking for sponsors as well. If you would like to sponsor the Fireman Kenny Show podcast, feel free to contact us for potential sponsorship opportunities. We will mention the National Fire Sprinkler Association when we talk about NFSA reported sprinkler saves. We're also listing Fire Suppression Solutions as one of our sponsors for the Fire Suppression Tools, or the FSTs, and other items donated to Wisconsin fire departments and law enforcement agencies. Here's a word from our sponsor.
Fire can strike without warning, leaving you with precious little time to react. And if you are not prepared, the damage can be devastating to life and property. In the blink of an eye, your home or business could be on fire, with flames doubling in size every 30 seconds, leaving you helpless and unable to respond. Don't let this nightmare become a reality. That starts with being prepared. Our fire suppression products are designed to equip you with an effective response to any fire emergency, all while limiting additional damage, making you the true first responder, giving you the peace of mind that you have what you need to keep your loved ones and property safe until more help comes. Do you have a plan to respond to a fire emergency at your home or business? Protect your family, pets, and property with the tools from Fire Suppression Solutions. Contact us today and finish putting your plan into effect before it's too late.
For more information on Fire Suppression Solutions, visit firess.us.
So, Kenny, I know there's a lot of people out there in our community that support various risk reduction and injury prevention efforts. And I know you always like to do monthly shout-outs. So who do you have on your list to give shout-outs to today?
Well, Ginger, we have a number of people to thank because, again, there is a lot of assistance going to the fire service organizations throughout the state of Wisconsin. So there was a lot of assistance to the Wisconsin State Fire Inspectors Association in the month of November. First, we had Service Manager Andy Adams from Marmic Fire Safety Co, who conducted training on commercial kitchen suppression systems on November 18th for WSFIA Area 7 chapter members at the Appleton Fire Department. Another shout out goes to HVAC service salesperson Dave Stuart from Ahern Fire Protection and business representatives Jacob Olson and Matt VanDerPuy from Smart 18 for conducting training on smoke damper codes at the WSFIA Area 1 chapter meeting in Milwaukee on November 19th. Thank you to JF Ahern for hosting the meeting as well as providing lunch for the attendees. And our last thank you goes to Wisconsin State Coordinator Steve Howard from the National Fire Sprinkler Association for conducting training on sprinkler systems for the Fire Inspector 1 and Driver Operator students at Moraine Park Technical College on November 17th. Steve conducted an hour of lecture on sprinkler systems and then demonstrated the components in the valve trailer at the Horicon campus. And actually, Steve had a pretty full day as he conducted the same training in the morning at Waukesha County Technical College. So, Steve, thanks for all of your efforts on that day.
So, Kenny, your newest segment is Fireman Kenny Recommends, where you talk about another fire service podcast. What podcast are you recommending this month?
Well, Ginger, the fire service podcast that Fireman Kenny recommends this month is Better Every Shift. Aaron Zamzo is a lieutenant with the City of Madison Fire Department. On the Better Every Shift podcast, Aaron interviews fire service leaders around the country on ways to improve training and culture in the fire service. Aaron is also a writer for Fire Rescue One. You can follow the Better Every Shift podcast on Fire Rescue One's website, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and iHeartRadio.
You know, Kenny, I know that participating in podcasts can be a really great way to get information out in the community. Recently, I had something happen at home where we had a little bit of a near miss with a fire, and your podcast came to mind. I had set our electric oven on the cleaning cycle and, walked away. I put in some AirPods and went upstairs and started yapping to my sister and did not realize that smoke started billowing into the house. By the time my husband came into the house, he had to extinguish a small fire because somebody, maybe myself or maybe somebody else who lives in the house, had left some items in the drawer underneath the oven, and they had ignited and caught on fire.
Ginger, that is a really great way to make the podcast and a really great way to set an example. And I'm glad you're able to bring that up because there are way more times that happens than people realize. And again, you didn't call the fire department, so that's one that doesn't show up on the statistics for fires. So thank you for sharing that with us. And hopefully similar fires will not make the podcast because hopefully people will either realize they've done it or not leave items in that lower drawer when they put the oven on cleaning mode.
Yep, it was certainly a learning opportunity for me to be, more careful and more cautious when I'm using that cleaning mode, and also just being more observant when I'm using the cleaning mode. And my husband certainly did say to me, and he asked me once the dust had settled, or the smoke had settled, so to speak, he asked me if I was trying to get on the Fireman Kenny podcast. So, we're all famous here when we participate in these podcasts. So, Kenny, speaking of that small house fire I had at my house, and my house does not have a fire sprinkler system, I know that you are a huge advocate for sprinkler saves and sprinkler systems, and you also have a section in your podcast, Fires You Never Hear About, because there's no news in something that was stopped from happening.
Yeah, and as I pointed out, I am an advocate of fire sprinkler systems and a dues-paying member of the National Fire Sprinkler Association, www.nfsa.org. Be sure to follow the National Fire Sprinkler Association on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So our first save comes from the Slinger Fire Department. Thank you to Captain Tim Roskoff for the notification of this save. And our 13 loyal listeners know that Tim is a friend of the show. The Slinger Fire Department credited a single fire sprinkler head for putting out most of a fire at an 8-unit apartment building on Thursday, November 6th. At 5:30 p.m., firefighters arrived at the building in the 600 block of Cedar Bluffs Way in the village of Slinger for an activated fire alarm. The Slinger Fire Department stated that an automatic fire sprinkler head activated from a fire. The sprinkler head also triggered the building's fire alarm system. Firefighters suppressed the rest of the fire using a tack hose. The fire appeared to start in a small waste receptacle in a corner of a single-car garage. The fire caused a small amount of damage to a shelving unit and contents nearby. There was no damage to the rest of the building. Tenants were able to return immediately. The incident highlights the importance of protecting buildings and facilities with automatic fire sprinklers to contain fire, minimize damage, and prevent injury and harm, a Slinger Fire Department spokesperson said in a statement. Any questions can be directed to Captain Timothy Roskoff at the Slinger Fire Department. So again, a great example, and of course Slinger being in basically my backyard, so that is an important save for Washington County. Our second sprinkler save comes from the Appleton Fire Department. Thank you to Public Information Officer Alex Quintana for sending this one. She is also a friend of the show. On Thursday, November 13th, at approximately 8:40 p.m., the Appleton Fire Department was dispatched to a commercial fire in the 1600 block of West Spencer Street. The initial call reported a fire in a commercial building with smoke inside. Upon arrival, Appleton firefighters noted light smoke was visible from the overhead doors. Fire companies entered the area and confirmed the fire originated in the ductwork where the sprinkler activated and extinguished it. There were no reported injuries. According to the press release, the quick activation of a properly maintained fire sprinkler system significantly reduced damage to the buildings and contents. Appleton Fire Department encourages building owners to ensure their fire and life safety systems are installed and maintained according to code requirements to help prevent significant loss during an emergency. And again, Appleton Fire Department is a strong supporter of fire sprinkler systems as well as community risk reduction. And our last save was reported by the North Shore Fire Department with a press release on their Facebook page. According to the release, an overnight fire in a Brown Deer apartment building was quickly extinguished by a fire sprinkler system. North Shore Fire Rescue was dispatched to a report of a fire alarm sounding at 8720 North Deerwood Drive in the village of Brown Deer at 2:55 a.m. on Friday, November 21st. The initial engine crew arrived on scene in less than 3 minutes and found residents evacuating from a building. Smoke was noted on the third floor. Upon entering a third-floor apartment, firefighters found a fire in the kitchen that had been extinguished by a fire sprinkler system. The fire was a result of a pan of oil being used to fry food that started the fire. The fire damaged the oven, cabinets, and wall in the apartment before being extinguished by the fire sprinkler system. Water from the sprinkler system caused minor damage to 2 other apartments below the unit where the fire occurred. The Red Cross assisted occupants who were displaced. No injuries were reported to occupants or responders. The building had approximately 40 apartment units. So I have to wonder why somebody was frying something with oil at 2:55 a.m.
Well, I could make some assumptions, but you can't blame people for having a 2 a.m. snack.
Well, yeah, and this is something that Rick and I used to talk about regularly, and it was always something that happened in those wee morning hours, especially on a weekend. Maybe I'm just really lazy, but I've never actually cooked anything after hours. Usually I just go for snacks that are available in the fridge or something in the shelf. But cooking at 2 a.m. has never occurred to me as a good idea, no matter how many adult beverages I had before. But it should be noted that the sprinkler save was the second in a week reported by the North Shore Fire Department. They had a save of an office building in Glendale earlier that week. There have been 40 reported sprinkler saves in Wisconsin so far in 2025. If you are a Wisconsin Fire Department or a sprinkler contractor who responds to a fire where a sprinkler system is activated due to the fire, you can email sprinklersave@wsfia.org to report the save. Or if you're outside of Wisconsin, you can tag the National Fire Sprinkler Association in your social media posts and also use the hashtag fastest water, so that post gains attention in the algorithms.
Kenny, I love hearing about these different sprinkler saves, and I learn a lot when I hear about them. I think learning about these sprinkler saves just shares information, because then I learn about things that are causing fires, because when you share these sprinkler saves, you usually share like what caused the fire, and then as well as hearing about what like damage could have occurred and did occur. So I think getting these out into the community can be really helpful, no matter what your role is. If you work in community risk reduction, if you have a background like I do in nursing, or if you're just a general community member, because I think it just really gets your mind thinking about ways that fires could start and how you could prevent it from happening in your home.
Yeah, and the other big part of it is that these sprinklers put out fires early, which actually saves the evidence and the point of origin. So that actually helps a lot to get the idea out that people need to be a little bit safer in their homes. And on top of that, these sprinkler systems are not only expensive to put in, but also expensive to maintain. So it really does help promoting the sprinkler saves, showing that it's worth the money to actually put these into residences and into businesses.
So Kenny, with Christmas only being a few short weeks away, what tips do you have for your 13 loyal listeners about fire safety during the holiday season?
Well, Ginger, you're right. Christmas is almost upon us. Jolly old Santa will be coming down your chimney in just a few short weeks. I know all of my loyal listeners had their chimneys inspected and cleaned for Santa, since we talked about National Chimney Safety Week with Matt Ellis from the Chimney Safety Institute of America back in September. If you didn't have your chimney inspected, you'll need to go back and listen to that episode as your punishment for not following through with your personal responsibilities.
Oh, so certainly get off the naughty list at least.
Exactly. Santa knows. Santa's been watching, so you got to make sure that you follow through with all of your personal responsibilities. So we're going to start with Christmas tree safety. By this point, there are many people who already have their Christmas trees up in their homes. Here are some important Christmas tree safety tips. Make sure the tree is at least 3 feet away from any heat sources such as fireplaces, radiators, candles, heat vents, or lights. Make sure the tree is not blocking an exit. Add water daily to the tree stand. Use lights that have the label of a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories or UL. Be aware that some lights are for indoor use only. Never use indoor lights outside. Replace any string of lights with worn or broken cords or loose bulb connections. Read the manufacturer's instructions for number of light strands to connect. Never use lit candles to decorate a tree. Always turn off Christmas tree lights before leaving your home or going to bed. Get rid of the tree after Christmas or when it's dry. Dried out trees are a fire danger and should not be left in the home, garage, or placed outside against the home. I've talked about this every year, and you absolutely need to follow through. The West Bend Fire Department had a fire started by a Christmas tree in February. This is way too long to keep your Christmas tree up. It is definitely a fire hazard. Don't make me talk about getting rid of your Christmas tree until I'm blue in the face. Just get rid of it right after Christmas.
So, Kenny, I know I love burning candles, especially around the holidays, because I just love the way it can get me in the holiday spirit, having some of those different aromas and things like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about candle safety?
Yes, I can, Ginger. Candles are the 5th leading cause of home fires. On average, there are 20 candle fires each day throughout the U.S., and more than 1/3 of home decoration fires are started by candles. When using candles, be sure to not burn candles when home oxygen is in use. Place candles in a sturdy holder on a level surface so they won't tip over. Place candles at least 1 foot away from anything that can burn. Use battery-operated flameless candles whenever possible, and extinguish all candles when you leave the room or go to bed. Also, if you're going to use flameless candles powered by lithium-ion batteries, or any items or other equipment that uses lithium-ion batteries, be sure to recycle those batteries. Do not throw them in the trash, where there is an ever-increasing number of garbage truck fires caused by improperly disposed lithium-ion batteries. If you don't know where to go to dispose of lithium-ion batteries, you can visit calltorecycle.org. So that's call, the number 2, recycle.org for more information on locations to dispose of those batteries.
So Kenny, I was looking through the Black Friday ads and I saw this kind of cool lamp. And the lamp is a lamp that must get a little bit warm, and then you set your candle under it and it sort of makes the candle smell good without lighting it. And I'm wondering, that might be a great solution for me to use at home, so I don't even have to light the candle at all, but I could still get that great smell in the house.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. So if it's UL or third party listed, it's probably okay to use. However, that's one thing I would definitely look for, is that UL or third party testing listing to make sure that item is safe to be used in the home.
So Kenny, something that I've learned throughout the years in working in trauma programs and injury prevention, and this isn't exclusive just to working in the community, this is pretty much my whole job. And that's, we really have to share data with people so they care, to get people's attention, and mostly so they believe us, right? Here's something I think that we do on this podcast that's really important, and you do a great job of this, Kenny, is you share the data so people believe you, and then you share the stories so they care. And something that I think you've shared in the past, and that's very meaningful, is some of the data and statistics around fire mortality or fire deaths. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so it's been a very deadly year so far in Wisconsin for civilian home fire deaths. We are up to 52 civilian home fire deaths so far in 2020 in Wisconsin. Unfortunately, that ties 2020, where everybody was home with COVID, for the most fire deaths over a 10-year period. So we made some really great strides from the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s to bring down civilian home fire deaths. And unfortunately, we've had some pretty deadly weeks here in November. We had 1 week early in November where we had 7 lives lost in 5 fires throughout the state, 5 residential fires throughout the state. We've also recently lost 3 children in a Kenosha fire, and that brought us up to 52 civilian home fire deaths for the year. Unfortunately, we have 4 more weeks to go. The home heating season is just getting started, so we will end up beating 2020's numbers, unfortunately. So the biggest thing is make sure to listen to all the fire safety tips, as well as making sure that you have smoke alarms in your home, and making sure you're testing those smoke alarms once a month, making sure you have a smoke alarm inside each sleeping area, outside the sleeping areas, and on every level of your home, making sure that you have one inside the bedroom because of the Close Before You Doze program, where you are sleeping with your bedroom door closed. Remember, a fire can start in another room with a bedroom door closed. The UL Fire Safety Research Institute has shown that a 20-minute rated door can actually hold back fire for a much longer period of time than that, giving you some time to escape and giving the fire department some time to get you rescued. So again, making sure you have smoke alarms inside each sleeping area, outside the sleeping areas, every level of your home, and testing them monthly.
So when you consider some of these fire-related mortalities or deaths, and I hear you talking about some of the different prevention initiatives, it tells me that all of those lives lost were preventable. And so I think it's just important to take action, and if you need additional resources or things like that, I'm sure Kenny has things like that in the show notes. You can always email him or check out Kenny's Facebook page.
Yeah, so one of the biggest issues is the fire deaths. And like you say, Ginger, I wouldn't say every one of them is preventable, but I would say almost all of them are preventable. So one of the stats that the National Fire Protection Association has is that 3 out of every 5 home fire deaths occur in homes with no smoke alarms or no working smoke alarms. So if we cut out a good majority of those deaths from not having smoke alarms, we'll probably still have a few, because we're going to have some people who may have some mobility issues, or we may have some sort of explosion that occurs that's not preventable. And so what we have to do is just make sure we're following all these fire safety tips to bring those fire deaths down to 0 or as close to 0 as we can get them.
Well, I know there's a lot of upcoming awareness campaigns coming up in December. Can you share some information about those?
For December, we have Safe Toys and Gifts Month. National Impaired Driving Prevention Month, International Sharps Injury Prevention Awareness Month, so that's for all of our medical practitioners out there, Seasonal Affective Disorder or SAD Awareness Month, National Hand Washing Awareness Week is December 1st through the 7th. So that might be something that a lot of people may consider minuscule and like, hey, why do we need to promote a week? But all of our medical practitioners out there know how important hand washing is. And a lot of people may not realize how important it is to wash your hands after eating or after going to the bathroom or whatever. And so we need to make sure we promote National Hand Washing Awareness Week to prevent the spread of flu and other diseases and everything else throughout the area. Older Driver Safety Awareness Week is December 1st through the 5th. And that one we had Sally Jensen from the Hartford Fire Department on our previous episode. National Influenza Vaccination Week is December 6th through the 12th. And then, of course, we have Christmas and New Year's coming up, so we have to practice Christmas safety and New Year's Eve safety.
Wow, December is a really busy month for the different campaigns, and I really appreciated what you said when we talked about, hand washing week as well as flu vaccination awareness, because those are some of the things that we know can really prevent the spread of germs and, reduce your risk of getting sick and things like that. So great things to highlight for December. What about January? What's coming up in January?
So we've got National Blood Donor Month, which is sponsored by the American Red Cross, National Bath Safety Month, Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, and we'll be talking with Tom Thrash from the Southeast Regional Trauma Advisory Council. Tom is a former firefighter and a cancer survivor. We'll be talking with him on the show for Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month. Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, National Winter Sports Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month, National Radon Action Month, National Slavery and Human Traffic Prevention Month, National Law Enforcement Officer Appreciation Day is January 9th, so we'll have to buy all of our law enforcement friends some donuts on January 9th. International Snowmobile Safety Week is January 10th through the 18th. Home Office Safety and Security Week is January 11th through the 17th. Community Risk Reduction Week, or CRR Week, is January 19th to the 25th, and that's a very important week for all of us that are in community risk reduction. And Tax Identity Theft Awareness Week is January 26th through the 30th. So, Ginger, thanks for being on the show this month. Do you have any final thoughts for our 13 loyal listeners?
Well, Kenny, once again, I would just like to thank you for continuing to put together these podcasts every week. I am a regular loyal listener, one of your 13, in fact, and I find them to be informative, whether I'm on the show or not. I really enjoy listening to the podcast, and I learn something new with every episode. And so whether I'm being interviewed or being the interviewee, I just really appreciate the opportunity to get these messages out into the community. So thanks for all your work on it, Kenny.
We would like to thank Ginger Knapp for hosting this episode. For more information on trauma programs at Froedtert, you can visit Froedtert.com/trauma. Join us on our next episode when we talk about fire sprinkler systems with Jason Schmidt from Paul Davis Restoration. WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny is returning to quarters.
They answer the call to be there for you whenever needed. Horwath Family Builders proudly salutes our first responders. Here's another important message on Milwaukee's Hometown Rock.
I'm Lieutenant Jason Weiss from the Port Washington Fire Department. U.S. fire departments respond to an average of 160 home fires started by Christmas trees each year. These fires caused an average of 2 deaths, 14 injuries, and $10 million in direct property damage. If you are using a live tree over the Christmas holiday, please remember to water the tree daily. Make sure the tree is at least 3 feet away from a heat source, such as a fireplace or candles. Only use lights that are certified by a third party such as UL, and get rid of the tree after Christmas or once it is dry. Following these tips will help you enjoy a safe Christmas holiday.
96.5 WKLH and Horwath Family Builders are proud to salute our first responders. Get more information and links to first responders throughout Southeast Wisconsin online now at WKLH.com.